What happens when a Mexican cartel boss decides New York's cocaine market is too profitable to ignore? When Juan El Lobo Mendoza starts selling product in Gambino territory without permission, without negotiation, without understanding that the rules in New York are different from the rules in Guadalajara, how does John Gotti respond? And when the meeting between Italian organized crime and Mexican drug cartels could either establish a working relationship or start a war that crosses international borders, what does power look like when it's measured not in bullets, but in boundaries? This is the story of the cocaine shipment that violated every territorial agreement, and why the meeting at a Queens warehouse became the moment a cartel boss learned that expanding into New York required more than money and product. It started in June 1988, Jackson Heights, Queens. Jackson Heights had a growing Colombian and Mexican immigrant population, and with that population came opportunity for drug distribution. The neighborhood was Gambino territory, had been for decades. But the cocaine trade was different from traditional rackets. Cocaine came from South America through Mexican cartels, and those cartels were expanding north, looking for direct distribution networks in major American cities. Juan El Lobo Mendoza was a lieutenant in the Gulf Cartel, 38 years old, based in Matamoros, but operating throughout the southern United States. He looked at New York and saw the largest cocaine market in America, millions of users, premium prices, endless demand. He also saw what he thought was an opening. The Italian mob controlled traditional rackets, but cocaine was new, and maybe the old rules didn't apply. So Mendoza sent 2 of his people into Jackson Heights with 20 kilos of pure Colombian cocaine. Not to sell to Gambino distributors, to sell directly to street dealers, undercutting Gambino prices, establishing Gulf Cartel as an alternative supplier. The first week they moved 5 kilos, the second week 8 kilos. The money was flowing back to Mendoza in Texas, and he was planning to expand the operation, more product, more dealers, more territory. What he didn't understand was that every transaction was being watched, because in Gambino territory nothing happened without Gambino knowing about it. Word reached John Gotti through his street captains, new suppliers in Jackson Heights. Mexican, moving serious weight, undercutting family prices, not paying tribute, not asking permission, just operating like the territory was open market. Gotti sat at the Bergin Hunt and Fish Club with Sammy Gravano and listened to the reports. His face showed calculation, not anger, calculation. Sammy wanted immediate action. We shut them down. Hard. Send a message that you don't sell in our territory without paying us. But Gotti shook his head. This is different than some independent dealer trying to make a move. This is a Mexican cartel. They've got resources, connections, product pipeline we don't have. If we go to war with them, it's not 3 guys we're fighting. It's an organization that spans from Colombia to the border. We need to be smart about this. So what do you want to do? I want a meeting. I want to talk to whoever's running this operation. I want to understand what they think they're doing in our territory. And I want to explain how business actually works in New York. Getting the meeting took a week. Gotti sent word through intermediaries, Colombians who worked with both Gambino family and Gulf Cartel, people who could carry messages without triggering violence. The message was simple: you're operating in Gambino territory without arrangement. We need to talk. Either we work something out, or you leave New York. Your choice. But you need to choose now. Mendoza's response came back quickly. He was willing to meet. He was in New York anyway, overseeing the expansion. He suggested neutral ground, a warehouse in Long Island City that was being used as a Gulf Cartel stash house. Gotti countered, "Not your warehouse, not my social club. Neutral territory. A restaurant in Astoria closed for private meeting. Mendoza agreed. The meeting was set for a Thursday night. Taverna Kyklades, Greek restaurant in Astoria, closed to public after 10 p.m. 1 table, 2 sides. Gotti arrived with Sammy Gravano and 2 captains, all of them in expensive suits, looking like businessmen rather than mobsters. That was Gotti's style: appear legitimate, act professional, demonstrate that you're successful enough that you don't need to prove anything with violence. Mendoza arrived 15 minutes later with 3 men. Mendoza himself was different from what Gotti expected. Not flashy, not loud, quiet, mid-30s, lean, dressed in simple dark clothing, eyes that showed he'd seen real violence and wasn't impressed by threats. His men were the same, former Mexican military based on their bearing, not street thugs. They sat down across from Gotti. For a moment, nobody spoke. 2 criminal organizations, 2 different cultures, 2 different approaches to the same business. Then Gotti broke the silence. "Mr. Mendoza, thank you for coming. I understand you've been doing business in Jackson Heights, moving product, making money. That's good. Business should be good. But we have a problem." Mendoza's English was accented but clear. "What problem is that, Mr. Gotti?" "The problem is Jackson Heights is Gambino territory. Has been for 40 years. Everything that happens there, every business, every deal, every transaction, happens with our knowledge and our permission. You've been operating for 3 weeks without either. That's not how this works." Mendoza leaned back slightly. "With respect, Mr. Gotti, cocaine is different than your traditional businesses. Cocaine comes from Colombia through Mexican cartels. We control the supply. We control the pipeline. We're not asking permission to sell product we bring into the country ourselves." Gotti nodded slowly. "I understand your perspective. You control supply. You bring product across the border. You think that means you can sell wherever you want. But you're missing something important. We control territory. Every dealer you're selling to, every street corner where product moves, every customer who buys, that all happens in space we control. You can bring all the cocaine you want into New York, but if you don't have our permission to distribute it, you don't have a business. You have a warehouse full of product you can't move. Are you threatening to stop our operation?" "I'm explaining how New York works. This isn't Texas. This isn't Mexico. This is a city where 5 families have divided territory and maintained those divisions for 60 years. If we let you operate without arrangement, every other organization will think they can do the same thing. Then we don't have territory. We have chaos." Mendoza considered this. "What kind of arrangement are you proposing?" Gotti's response was direct. "You want to sell cocaine in New York. You work with us. We don't take your product. We don't take your customers. We don't interfere with your supply chain. But you pay us a percentage for the right to operate in our territory. Call it territory tax. Call it partnership. Call it whatever makes sense to you. But you pay, or you leave." "What percentage?" 20% of gross revenue from New York operations. Not profit. Revenue. You sell a kilo for 40,000, you pay us 8,000. You sell 10 kilos, you pay 80,000. Simple math. Mendoza's expression didn't change, but his men looked unhappy. 20% was significant. "That's a lot of money, Mr. Gotti. It's the cost of operating in the largest cocaine market in America without having to worry about competition from other suppliers, without having to worry about police interference we can control, without having to worry about violence from other organizations. You pay us, you get access to protected territory where you can do business. And if we refuse..." Gotti's smile was slight. Then you leave New York, voluntarily and immediately, because if you stay without arrangement, we make it impossible for you to operate. We tell every dealer you're selling to that buying from you means they can't buy from us. We tell every customer that your product is suspect. We tell every Colombian supplier that you're causing problems in New York. And we make it very clear to everyone in the drug trade that working with Gulf Cartel means war with Gambino family. You might still be able to move some product, but it'll be expensive, dangerous, and a fraction of what you're moving now. Mendoza was quiet for a long moment. His men were watching him, waiting for his decision. This wasn't a negotiation where he could bluff or threaten his way to better terms. This was a business decision. Pay 20% and operate safely, or refuse and face systematic opposition that would make New York unprofitable. I need to discuss this with my people, Mendoza said. How long do you need? 2 days. You have 1 day. Because every day you operate without arrangement, you're disrespecting our territory. That can't continue. Mendoza stood. His men stood with him. 1 day. I'll have an answer tomorrow. Gotti remained seated. Good. And Mendoza, while you're deciding, stop all operations in Jackson Heights. No sales, no distributions, no activity. When we reach agreement, you can resume. Until then, consider it a gesture of good faith that you respect our position. Mendoza nodded once, then left with his men. After they were gone, Sammy looked at Gotti. You think he'll pay? He'll pay. Because the math works. 20% of New York revenue is still 80% of the largest cocaine market in America. And the alternative is war with us while trying to establish a new market. Smart businessman takes the arrangement. The next day, word came through the same intermediaries. Mendoza agreed. 20% of gross revenue from all Gulf Cartel cocaine sales in New York City. Payments monthly. Territory restricted to specific neighborhoods that wouldn't conflict with other arrangements Gambino family had with different suppliers. The agreement was formalized through a second meeting, this time with accountants present to establish payment protocols. Within a month, Gulf Cartel was operating in Jackson Heights, Corona, and parts of the Bronx, moving significant weight, paying Gambino family approximately $200,000 per month in territory tax. It was a different kind of business than traditional mob rackets, but it was business nonetheless, and it established a template. Other cartels looking to expand into New York learned that operating in the city required working with the families that controlled territory. Some paid. Some tried to operate independently and found it impossible. Some went to other cities where the territorial rules were less established. For John Gotti, the Mexican cartel arrangement was proof of something important. The drug trade was changing organized crime. Cocaine money was enormous, dwarfed traditional rackets. Cartels had resources that even the 5 families couldn't match. But resources didn't mean control. Territory meant control. Access to customers meant control. The ability to make business easy or impossible meant control. Gotti understood that the Gambino family's power in New York wasn't about having the most money or the most soldiers. It was about controlling space, controlling relationships, and making it clear that operating in that space without arrangement was more expensive than paying for permission. Juan Mendoza operated in New York for 2 years, paying his monthly percentage, moving product efficiently, making money for Gulf Cartel and for Gambino family. In 1990, he was arrested in Texas on federal trafficking charges and sentenced to 30 years. His replacement in New York contacted Gambino representatives immediately to confirm that existing arrangements would continue, because by then everyone in the cartel world understood. You want to sell cocaine in New York, you work with the families who control the territory. You pay your percentage,
You follow the rules, or you find a different city. The story of the Mexican cartel expansion attempt and Gotti's response became a lesson in how power actually works when different criminal organizations intersect. Cartels had product, money and international connections. Italian mob had territory, political relationships, and 60 years of experience controlling New York. Neither could operate effectively without acknowledging what the other controlled. The meeting at Taverna Kicklades wasn't about who was tougher or more willing to use violence. It was about establishing terms under which both organizations could make money without destroying each other. Mendoza came to New York thinking cocaine was different, that old rules didn't apply, that controlling supply meant he could operate anywhere. Gotti taught him that supply without distribution access is just inventory, that territory without product is opportunity lost, and that smart criminals find ways to work together when working together makes both sides richer. That's the lesson. That's why the meeting ended Gulf Cartel's independent expansion but began a profitable partnership. And that's why John Gotti's legacy includes not just maintaining Italian mob power in traditional rackets, but adapting to the cocaine era by making cartels pay for the privilege of operating in the city he controlled.